Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello guys, how are you during this pandemic situations? Hope that all of you are in great conditions. This is me, Iqbal Hidayatullah, and all the teammates. Those are Naning, Andung, Vicky, and Zizif would like to present you about the visual dimensions. And we start with question. So what is visual dimension? Do you guys ever see a form of square, box, or even rectangle in a frame? If you ever see that, means that you have already know how visual dimension is. So what is exactly visual dimension? Architecture and urban design are interrelated public spatial art forms. From its environments to a city environment, that earth that survives the city design is called as visual dimension, where the observer can feel what they see. Visual dimension has two parts. Those are aesthetic preference and the kinesthetic experience. Aesthetic preference is an opinion of observer about the city environments that is recorded through the sense of sight, smell, and hearing. So there are three kinds of aesthetic category based on Lang 1995. Those are sensory aesthetic. Is a beauty that is related to wonderful sensation in the environment. And second is normal aesthetic. A beauty that pays attention to appreciations of form, rhythm, complexity, and things that related to visual sequence. And the third is symbolic aesthetic, where it is involving an appreciation of environment meaning that makes it comfortable. Meanwhile, the attributes that influence the visual preference to aesthetic environments, those are nature, maintenance, outdoor, history, and order. Pattern and aesthetic order. So we have four components in it. First, appreciations of rhythm. Second is sense of rhythm and pattern. The third is recognitions of balance. And the fourth is sensitivity to harmonic relationship. And the environmental frameworks are here. Like I've told you before, we have like a circle form and box or even rectangle in a frames that describe how the city environment is. You can see in the slide we have three and it has our explanations.
The kinesthetic experience. The experience of an urban environment is a dynamic activity involving movement and time. The kinesthetic experience. The environment experience is experienced as a dynamic emerging, unfolding temporal sequence. To describe the visual aspect of townscape, Gordon Cullen in 1961 conceived the concept of serial vision and argued that the urban experience is a series of there or relation. Second is urban space. There are positive and negative space in urban space. Relative close outdoor space which has a definite and distinctive shape, conceivable and can be measured, has definite boundaries, discontinuous in principle, closed static but serial in composition. Its shape is as important as that of the building surrounding, and in the negative space we have specialists, e.g. amorphous residues left over around building. In conceivable, discontinuous and lacking preferable edge or form, pattern, and aesthetic order. As we always experience the world rather than any single part in isolation, We appreciate environment as ensemble, ordered, visual, coherent, and harmonious. Smith 1980 argues that our intuitive capacity for aesthetic appreciation has four distinct components that transcend time and culture. The first is appreciation of rhythm. Second, sense of rhythm and pattern. Third, recognition of balance. Four, sensitivity to harmonic relationship. Okay, urban architecture. Visual aesthetic character of urban environment derives not only from its spatial qualities but also from the color, texture, and detailing of the defined space. Second, we have activity occurring within and around which contribute to its character and sense of place. The last is architecture and its landscaping. Hard and soft landscape. While well designed landscaping adds quality, visual interest, and color. Poorly designed landscaping distract from other with well designed development. Landscape design strategies should be developed before or in parallel with the building design process and play an integral part in a overarching urban design framework. Floorscape. Two main types of floorscape can be defined in urban areas: hard pavement and soft landscape area. A floorscape a character is substantially determined by the material used, like brick, stone slab, cobbles, concrete, and etc. Second, the way they are used. How they interact with other material and landscape features. Street furniture. Street furniture include hard landscape elements other than floorscape, electrical, likely standard, bench, planter, traffic light, bollard, boundary walls, railing, fountain, basil, and etc. In addition to contribute to identify and character. The quality and organization of street furniture are prime indicator of the quality of an urban space. Soft landing. Soft landing can be the device element, the first creating character and identity, enhancing the temporal legibility of urban environment by tree and other vegetation. The third playing an important in aesthetic leisure, therefore adding a sense of human scale, and the last providing a sense of enclosure. Okay, the conclusion is building, street and space, hard and soft, landscaping and street furniture should be considered together to create drama and visual interest and to reinforce or enhance the sense of place.
Okay, in this time I want to explain about stanza. Stanza is a group of lines that form the basic metrical unit in a poem. So, in a 12-line poem, the first 4 lines may be a stanza. You can identify stanza by the number of lines it has and its rhythm, scheme, or pattern, such as A, A, B, A, B. There are many uh, there are many different of stanza. Name of stanza. Stanza can be given a specific name depending on their structure and rhythm pattern, such as couplet 2 lines, tercet 3 lines, quatrain 4 lines, quintine 5 lines, sextine and 6 lines. 6 lines. Couplet. Couplet consists of 2 rhyming lines having the same method. Example: Essay on Criticism by Alexander Pope. True with its nature to advantage dressed. What of was tough but near sober express. Contoh yang kedua, Sonnet 2 by Edna Vincent Millay. Whether or not we find what we are seeking is either biologically speaking. Okay, this is a couplet, have two lines, and have a same meters. The set comprises three lines following a same rhyming scheme. A, or have a rhyming pattern ABA. Example, second setter by Thomas Wyatt. My mother's mates, when they did sew and spin, they sang sometimes a song of the field mouse. That for because their livelihood was but so thin. Will needs go seek her townish sister house. Will needs sit off herself endured too much pain. The stormy was her cave so sore did source. Oke, untuk contoh ini bersajak AB. Ini contoh yang kedua. Kalian bisa lihat sajaknya sama. Same rhyming scheme A. He the Eagle by Alfred Lord Tennyson. He clasps the crag with crooked hands. Close to the sun it lonely lands. Ringed with the azure world it stands. The ring-clad sea beneath him crawls. He watched from his mountain walls, and like a thunderbolt he falls. Okay, lanjut. Quatrain. Quatrain is a form of stanza popularized by a Persian poet, Omar Khayyam, who called it a rubai. It has common rhyming schemes A, AABB, ABAB. Example, Elegy written in the country, Khorshad by Thomas Gray. The carpet tolls the knell of parting day, the lowing her winds slowly o'er the lea. The plowman homeward plods his way, and leaves the world to darkness and to me. Kita bisa lihat di sini sajaknya itu bersajak A, B, A, B. Untuk contoh pertama, quitine. Quitine, also referred to as quinquine, is a stanza of lines of 5 lines, which may be rhythmed or unrhythmed and has a typical stress pattern. For example, November Night by Adelaide Crepsey. Listen, with fine dry sound, like steps of passing ghosts. The leaves force scrapes break from the tress and fall. Kita bisa lihat di sini contoh dari quitine ini tidak memiliki sajak. Sajaknya itu tidak beraturan. Oke, lanjut sixtine. Sixtine is a kind of stanza that consists of 6 lines. It is the second division of Italian or sonnets of Petrarch, following an octave on the first division comprising 8 lines. In a sonnet, a sixtine marks a change of emotional state of a poet, as they tend to be more subjective in the second part of the song. Some example: The Better Part by Matthew Arnold. So, answers to, but why not rather say, had man no second life, pitch is one height, sits there no just in heaven or sin to see. More strictly than the inward judge way, was Christ a man like us? Let us try. If we then too can be such mean as he.
Well, what is imagery? Imagery is language used by poets novelists, and other writers to create images in the mind of the reader. Imagery includes figurative and metaphorical language to improve the reader's experience through their sense. Well, imagery is when an author is able to paint a picture in our mind using only her words. Well, the next is examples of imagery. The first example, imagery using visuals. You can look at the slide, the example of imagery using visuals. In this example, the experience of the night sky is described in depth with color, shape, and pattern. The second example, imagery using sound. You can look at the slide, the example of imagery using sound. Here, auditory imagery breaks silence with the beautiful sound of piano keys. The third example, imagery using scent. You can look at the slide, the example of imagery using scent. The scent of hibiscus helps describe a scent which is relaxing, warm, and welcoming. The fourth example, imagery using taste. You can look at the slide, the example of imagery using taste. Thanks to an in-depth description of the candy's various flavors, the reader can almost experience the deliciousness directly. The fifth example, imagery using touch. You can look at the slide, the example of imagery using touch. In this example, imagery is used to describe the feeling of strained muscles, caressed tickle, and sweet cooling on skin. Well, there are 5 types of imagery. The first is auditory imagery, to describe what we hear. The second is visual imagery, to describe what we see. And the third is tactile imagery, to describe what we touch or feel. And the fourth is gustatory imagery, to describe what we taste. And the last, olfactory imagery, to describe what we smell. The last is the importance of using imagery. Imagery allows the readers to directly sympathize with the characters and narrators as they imagine, having the same sense experiences. Imagery commonly helps build compelling poetry, convincing narratives, vivid plays, well-designed film sets, and descriptive songs.
Okay guys, here we go to Crete poetry. Crete is one of island in Yunani. Crete is the largest and most populous of the Greek island. Crete is the home of the Minoan culture, one of the first cultures in Europe. Medieval work suggests that modern Greek started shaping as early the 10th century, with one of the first works being the epic poem of Tigenes Acritas. However, the first literary activity, which was important enough to be identified as modern Greek literature was done in the Cretan dialect during the 16th century in the Venetian Crete. The authors of Crete poetry are Vincentus Carnaros, the Crete's romantic poetry, also Hipponax, which introduced lyric poetry, and the last is Apo, that is also famous female poet. He wrote romantic poetry too. Jadi, karya-karya abad pertengahan menunjukkan bahwa bahasa Yunani modern mulai terbentuk sejak abad ke-10. Dengan salah satu karya pertamanya adalah puisi epik Digenis Akritas. Namun, kegiatan sastra pertama yang cukup penting untuk diidentifikasi sebagai sastra Yunani modern dilakukan dalam dialek Kreta pada abad ke-16 di Venesia, Crete. Crete has its own distinctive Mantinid poetry. The island is known for its Mantinid-based music, typically performed with the Cretan lyra and the lautu, and has many indigenous dances, the most noted of which is the Pentozeli. This association often performed in official events, but also becomes stage for people to meet up and engage in traditionalist practice. Crete mempunyai Mantinid poetry atau puisi Mantinid. Maksud dari Mantinid di sini adalah bentuk lagu rakyat yang paling umum dan tersebar luas di seluruh Crete. Mantinada Kreta atau Mantinada Crete adalah bait berirama dengan 15 suku kata dalam dialek Kreta. Seorang Kreta tidak mengatakan dengan kata-kata yang jelas apa yang dirasakan, namun mereka mengatakan dengan mantinada, yakni mereka menangis atau tertawa dengan berteriak. Perbedaan mantinada di Crete dan mantinada di kota-kota lain di Yunani adalah mantinada di kota Crete berlanjut dengan kecepatan yang sama, terutama di desa-desa, sementara di sisa Yunani sangat sedikit yang dibuat. Crete berhasil menggabungkan tradisi dan dengan perkembangan teknologi modern. Juga banyak mantinada Crete yang mengandung humor. Berikut adalah contoh-contoh mantinada tentang Crete.